Welcome to the Old Guy Bourbon Channel. Why do we call it that way? Because I'm an old guy and that's bourbon. Now, before we get started, I have two things. The first thing is, please like, subscribe, share, ring the notification bell, leave a comment. You know the drill. Help an old guy out. Now, the second thing I have is I got some constructive criticism today. And normally I wouldn't do a video today, but I'm doing it because the commenter left some constructive criticism, and I don't mind criticism, constructive or otherwise. I prefer constructive, but I'll take all kinds of criticism. It doesn't bother me, and when I get like a rude criticism, I just say, I'm sorry it bothers you. It's who I am, whatever. When I get constructive criticism, I look at it and I say either, well, that you got a good point there, but it's not something I'm willing to change, or hey, thanks, I'm going to look into that. Well, this criticism he was very polite about it, first of all, the commenter. Extremely polite. But reading between the lines, basically what it was the way I had my setup where I had the single bottle of bourbon there facing, the curtains. And so all you saw was, the table, the bottle of bourbon and curtains. And reading between the lines, it was like, well, that's annoying, And so I thought about it and I thought, well, when I originally started this, I thought, all I want to do is focus on a single bourbon. I don't want other bourbons getting in the way or anything. And I thought I was, being unique, which I was, but not a good idea. And there's a reason all the other bourbon reviewers and whiskey reviewers have their bourbon collection in the background. They're all a little smarter than I am. So, after thinking about it, I said, okay, I got to change things up. Well, the problem is I have a large collection, but I have it everywhere. I have physical media here, Blu-rays, DVDs, 4Ks. I have bourbon up on floating shelves. I have them in cabinets. I have bourbons behind me. So there's no way without redoing my entire room, and spackling and taking cabinets out and spackling and painting and buying new shelving and moving maybe my physical media to another room. And I'm lazy. So I'm probably not going to do that. So what I can do is just focus on this little section of bourbons. So you got something to look at. And to make a little game out of it, every time I do a video, and there's other bourbons you can't see on the floor and that and over there. But the ones you can see, I might switch a bottle or two out every video with other bourbons I have so you can, see if you can locate them, maybe even leave a comment on it. And if that doesn't interest you, that's also fine. But I understand the reason now after looking at it. Because when I watch other videos, I do look at the shelves. Let's see what they got back. Oh, look what he's got back there, So I appreciate the comment. I appreciate the advice. I'm taking it. And I'm doing a video special just to see what you think about it and what everybody thinks about it. So today we're going to review Rebel Small Batch Reserve. It's 110 proof. And this is on sale for $30. It's normally $35 in Pennsylvania. Now, this isn't my bottle. My friend Bill lent it to me to review, which I appreciate tremendously. Because I have, of all the bourbons I have, I can't have every bourbon. I don't think anybody can. Well, maybe somebody can, but I just don't. So it's nice when Bill gets something I don't have, and he brings it over and says, hey, go ahead and review it. And so I had never even heard of this bourbon. I mean, I've heard of Rebel, and I've had Rebel Yell in the past. And it used to be Rebel Yell. But then, when all the PC stuff came in, and Rebel Yell, of course, was the Confederate war cry. And, in order to avoid all that unnecessary stuff, they just changed the name to Rebel. But we all know it's still Rebel Yell in its heart. So anyway, I've had Rebel before, the Rebel Yell before. I had the Rebel, I think it was a small batch. And I knew, Rebel Yell had like a 6 and I think a 10-year-old out there, which I may get at some point. But this I didn't even know was available. It's 110 proof. And it's a Kentucky straight bourbon, so it has to be at least 4 years old because it doesn't carry an age statement. So is it 4 years old, 4 and 5-year-old? I don't know. Let's get into it. So on the color, well, that's a nice color. There may be some 5 and 6-year-old bourbon in here. That's a very nice color. Very deep. I don't know if you'd call that a deep amber or deep copper. I'm not the greatest person with with colors. I'm mildly colorblind, not completely, but mildly colorblind. So coloration is not my key, but I can tell a light from dark, if you know what I mean. So here we go. That's a darker color there. Now the nose is kind of light. It's not overpowering by any means. You got to get in kind of deep. Now the 110 proof, I'm getting a mild ethanol, but for 110, that's a very mild. I'm getting some baking spices. And now this is a wheater, but I'm also getting like a rye spice, which I shouldn't be getting because I do not believe there's any rye in here. But let's take a sip here. Now, the first sip of the day, you're going to get an ethanol burn because your mouth isn't acclimated to it. I definitely got the ethanol burn there. Definitely very ethanol forward on that first sip. But that is the first sip. But also very forward was a very good, strong chocolate note. And I like chocolate. Very chocolatey right off the bat. But also, you get that cinnamon red hot. Get some cinnamon red hot there. Now, let's take a look at the color again. Again, that's a nice deep color. So again, there's no this non-age statement, NAS, non-age statement. But that's a nice deep color. So I'm thinking there's some older bourbon in there besides just a 4-year-old. We know it's at least 4 because, again, it's non-age statement and it's Kentucky straight bourbon, which means it has to be at least 4 years old. It has to be at least 2 years old, but if it doesn't carry an age statement, it has to be at least 4 years old. Back in on the nose, that ethanol calmed down, on the nose. Not that it was very strong to begin with, but now it's almost non-existent. Again, that baking spice is there. And what you know what I think when I'm confusing with rye spices, maybe some pepper, a little peppery, and there's some sweetness on the nose. Maybe brown sugar, maybe some honey. Take another sip. Now the ethanol calmed down there. It definitely calmed down from that first sip. It was strong. I mean, really powerful. It's calmed down a lot. I will do a third sip to see. Sometimes it'll come back up, but really calmed down there. Again, that cinnamon red hot's there. The chocolate. It's very chocolatey. At least to me, it is heavily chocolate. I'm getting some cherry and that caramel sweetness. Let's take another look at the third look at the color. It hasn't changed, which, it shouldn't. If it changed, then I'm in a Stephen King video here. Again, the nose is kind of, I don't want to say weak. It's light. Let's put it that way. Now, I can't remember if I mentioned the price on this. It's $35 retail, and Bill got it for $30 on sale. So again, you got to look at we're reviewing a $30, $35 bourbon here, not a $50, $100 bourbon. So again, baking spice is there. I guess we're going to go with black pepper instead of rye spice, but it still seems like that's rye spice to me, and I know that's not in a because this is what it's corn, wheat, and barley, right? It's confusing, but I am still getting that little rye spice there. Brown sugar, sweetness, maybe a little honey, I'm digging real deep. Some tart cherry. So let's take that third and final sip for the review. I'm kind of chewing on that one. Man, that chocolate just seems to come really through strong for me. And again, everybody's palate's different. You may pick up different notes than I am, different aromas and different flavors, but this is chocolatey to me. The palate is much better than the nose, which is a good thing. For me, I love a good nose, but I've had bourbons where the nose is just outstanding and then the palate lets you down. That's disappointing. To me, if I can only have one or the other, I'll take the palate. I'll even take the palate over the finish, but I do like a longer finish. So for me, the most important thing is the palate, then probably the nose and the finish. Because I can have a really tasty bourbon that just, the finish is like, oh, where'd that finish go? It's all done, I'll have another sip. So, I do prefer longer finishes, but in order for me, it's like palate, nose, finish. Now, this has a great, great palate. Cinnamon red hots, that chocolate, some cherry, caramel, some honey, and some like a sun-made raisin, not the golden ones, the regular sun-made raisins. I'm getting that. Now, for me, and I saw other reviews of this before I did mine because I do watch other people's reviews. It's not to look for things, and sometimes it is. It's like I want to see what they get and see if I can get it. And oftentimes we have different palates. But I saw reviews that they said it was a short finish. This seems long to me on the finish. And on this finish, I'm getting that black pepper, I'm getting that cinnamon red hots, some black cherry, and that honey sweetness. And again, the finish is still there for me. It's finishing on like the sides of my tongue as like a mix between a cayenne pepper and a black pepper. Now, again, Bill lent me this bottle. I appreciate it. Thanks again, Bill. And normally I don't, I go on to another bottle because I don't. To me, we're doing reviews. It's like if I go out and spend $30, $35 on this, because right now it's still on sale, I think. But I think it's the start of the month. It'll go back to $35. I can buy a different bourbon because I've already reviewed this. Now, if I go and buy this bourbon, I'm not going to review it again, unless it was a single barrel. So, but this one I would buy. I think it's like I said, I haven't had all the Rebels or the Rebel Yells, but I have had a Rebel Yell, and I think it was the small batch. The Rebel 100, I believe it's called. I think I got one up on my shelves there somewhere. I had looked at the 6 and 10-year-old, and those I might buy. I was tempted. I think it was a 6-year-old I saw at the store, and I think it was like $60, and I was a little hesitant because Rebel is not like the greatest bourbon in the world normally. But because I've had the lower stuff, I guess. Now, this stuff for $30, $35, depending on where you are, it may be a little bit less. It's not the greatest bourbon in the world. But, man, that chocolate note comes through. It depends on what you like. Like, for me, I have several bourbons. I have over 100 bottles of bourbon. Different bourbons. And so I like different bourbons. So even in a $30 range or a $50 range or even a $100 range, I can have this bottle is like the best $50 bottle of bourbon I got, which for me would probably be Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Probably. Not guaranteeing it because it depends on the day, but I really do like Wild Turkey Rare Breed, but I also like Four Roses Single Barrel. But let's say that's the greatest bourbon for me for $50. But I got 10 or 15 $50 bourbons, because I like variety. So am I saying if you're only going to spend $30 or $35 and get one, is this the bottle? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if you like a little variety, this is certainly worth the $30 or $35 in my opinion. I do love that chocolate note. If you're a chocolate lover, and I think too also if you're new to bourbons and trying to pick out flavors, this one I think will jump out at you for the chocolate note. Now, that's what I think. I'm not right. I'm not always right. But please like, subscribe, share, comment, leave a notification bell. If you've tried this before, let me know. And especially if you tried it, are you picking up that chocolate note so strong like I am? Well, that's all I have for today. I hope you'll appreciate the new setup. And if you don't, you don't. You can complain about that too. I don't care. I do like to try and improve my thing. You know, I'm trying to improve all the time. And like I said, I'm going to switch out some of these bottles. I'm trying to look in which ones I can see, because there's some on the bottom you can't see. But I'm going to try and rotate some bottles out every time I do a video, just to give you something to search for and see what you can pick out. Well, thanks for hanging around. That's all I have for today. See you next time.